Bonjour, everyone. Hi, Neshi Lokotz here. Welcome to the Spirit of Color. And guess what? We have our main host for tonight is Minnie Kansman. And I'm going to bring Minnie on right now. Minnie.
Hi, everyone. It's Minnie Kansman. I'm your host tonight. I'm coming from Lyons, Michigan, home of beautiful countryside and limited internet data. So that is why you're seeing just a photo of me tonight. But I will be your host for this evening, along with my SiStar co-host, Neshi Lokotz, who introduced us. Donna Thompson, are you in the room?
I'm here.
All right. And Sharon Rosenblum, special guest star that's joining us tonight. Sharon, are you here?
Hang on just a minute. I got to bring Sharon up. Hold on.
Come on. I'm doing
Hold on. Hold on.
She's down below deck.
Here she comes.
Hi, Minnie. Hi, Neshi. And hi, Donna. Nice to see you all again.
Yay.
Okay. And tonight's topic for Spirit of Color show is called The Colors of the Seasons. And we are going to talk about what colors of the coming seasons of Christmas and solstice and Hanukkah and whatever else you might celebrate, what those colors might have in meaning for you, if you've ever really thought about it that deeply, and what traditional colors and maybe not so traditional colors you might associate with your holidays. So let's start, as we always do, with a centering visualization. So everyone just sit and relax in your chair, get yourself nice and grounded, whether you're sitting or lying down, relaxing and breathing, and using our breath to ground ourselves back into our body, back into the chair we're sitting on, and back into the present moment. So taking some nice deep breaths in, and as I say, through, and then out. So in, letting that breath move through your body, and then out. And one more time. In, and through, and out. And with your eyes closed, I'd like you to go back into your childhood. Go back to a time during the holiday season and think about what are your favorite color memories from this time, this magical time of childhood and the holidays. What color memories might you have? What images come up? And just really look at that, feel that color or colors, and let them just settle into your heart. All those beautiful colors that you remember from your childhood. And use these colors to remember and remind you of an energy, or it might bring up an emotion. See, what do these colors have to tell you tonight? Maybe there's some kind of a reminder for the holiday season coming up. Maybe there's a memory that you'd like to bring forward in the season that's to come of a special time of your past. And just hold that in your heart and bring your breath and yourself back into this room and back into the space here on the show. Thank you. I love doing that, going back and remembering all the beauty and the magic that the holidays, I get so excited at the holidays, so excited, even just when the first snow would fall. And thinking about all the colors that make me happy is really fun. So first, I'd like to ask Neshi, what were your color memories that came up just then?
Well, the traditional ones, the greens, the reds, the white. And I can remember, in a childhood Christmas tree, we never had an artificial tree. I always had a real tree, and we never bought the tree. My dad would go out and my brothers would go out and cut it down. And so I remember the color of the tree, the green, the needles, and the smell, that piney smell. Yeah. That's what I remembered. Was more the aroma than the actual color, but it was the green from the tree. Yeah.
So there's a color scent memory.
Yep. Absolutely.
Going
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And Donna, what were your color memories that came up?
For me, too, red and green. I saw the childhood Christmas tree. That was kind of the focus of it for me, and all the lights and all the colors of the ornaments. But interestingly, Neshi mentioned the sense memory that goes along with it. And I grew up with an artificial tree, even though I grew up in the sticks. But we always had an artificial tree for fear of, my dad was very safety conscious, and we had 2 wood stoves in the house. And he felt it was much safer to have an artificial tree than a live tree, which was fairly near the living room wood stove. So for me as an adult, I've always had a real tree. And that's like such a treat to me, because I'm all about the scent. And I love having that scent in the house. But yeah, green and red, certain key, ornaments. And a little bit on the end, I saw some chocolate on the table too.
And Sharon, how about you?
Well, growing up, I grew up in the Christian faith. So for me, it was also the Christmas tree. We used to have, I remember the big bulbs that we would put on them instead of the little tiny ones that we have now. And it was always, we put them in by hand. So there were all kinds of colors. So there was the color of the tree, but the lights on it as well. Although for some reason, it's the brightness, sort of the white light, that really resonates with me and sticks with me, along with the scent of that fresh tree. Because yes, like Neshi, we always had a fresh tree every year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was the colors of those antique glass balls. I did send you guys a photo of that.
Yeah. Would you like me to show that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Because that just, for me, those were my favorite ornaments on our tree. We didn't have a lot of them, but we had some old ones from my mom's family. And all that shiny glass and all those colors together, even, the blue and the hot pink and the red and the green, and then with gold lights to just be the background sparkle. And I would just stare at that tree. I still do. I'll just sit in my living room and stare at the Christmas tree.
Yeah, but you come from fairyland, Fairyville.
It is a fairyland. It's like we created a fairyland every December in our house for me with this tree. And I didn't do that shelves on the elf thing at all, which is so funny, But I did the real thing in the tree, I think. But yeah. So for me, the red and green, for me, feels very commercialized Christmas. But for me, it's this punch of all these colors that just make it pop. And that's what makes it magic. If Christmas was just red and green, I would be very bored. But it seems like the commercialization of it. You know, if you look at the advertising or what I advertised for this show to make things pop, you know, for people to notice, you know, that this red next to this green really is an eye catcher. You know.
Oops! I took the picture down. Which one are you talking about?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
Keep your pretty faces up. So, but what do you guys think? Where does this tradition of the colors of red and green, like, when did they first start? Where did they come from? What do you think, Neshi?
You know, for me, it's always been about nature, right? And that's kind of how I grew up. Is the only real color that you saw in winter, in December, was either cardinals or wintergreen berries, you know, because they're really low to the ground, really low cover. And you can still see them in the winter if it's got, you know, like a light snowfall on it, and they've got little red berries on them. And so, that, you know, of course, the red would stand out against the white, right? And so, for me, that's where the red comes from, is from nature, from the cardinals. And I actually had, I drew out a pattern of a cardinal, and my dad cut them out of, I don't even know what he used. It was like a really thin board. And I painted and painted them into look like real cardinals. And that's those. I used to have those on my tree when I had a tree up. That and the white snowflakes, the hand crocheted white snowflakes. Yeah, because it was white, it was snow, right? And then the green coming from the evergreen, from the trees. So to me, the color came from nature.
Right, and really red, green, and white combo. Yeah. Wow. And Donna, what do you think about the red and green? What does that mean to you?
Well, the green for sure. I've always associated with evergreen, you know, and the Christmas tree and everything that goes along with that. The red, I had to really stop and think and be like, red. You know, it's just Christmas has always been green and red to me. My first thought was, well, Santa. Santa's red, so that must be why, even as an adult today. Oh, you know, that must be why red is so popular. And so then I Googled around a little bit, and I have to say, honestly, I was a little shocked to really, like, supposedly it's part of the tradition of red for Christmas is the blood of Jesus from his crucifixion. Now, have you ever heard that? Because I was raised Christian, and like that was news to me.
It sounds like.
No. Okay, I feel better. I was like, okay, what kind of Christian have I been? I thought it was about Santa. I really thought it was about more modern things. I had no association with red and Christ's blood or anything like that. So, but to me now, where I'm at in my own life, when I really look at things, to me, and the more I study paganism and Celtic shamanism, I find in my studies that a lot of these traditions really have come from the pagan tradition, right? So the first colors that came up when I researched for paganism, red, green, and white. So there you go. You know, that's my feeling on it. Stolen from the pagans once again. That's what I say.
Well, yeah, and then turned into something gruesome for the Christians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Hallmark got a hold of it.
And it was all over with. So yeah. And yet still we love it. We love it. I love it all. You know, I still celebrate Christmas, but I more and more bring in my own, my new pagan beliefs and traditions. So.
Well, you know, I think I have to add this because we're doing this show on November 16th.
Right.
Haven't even, you know, in the United States, we haven't done the next holiday, which is Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
And so there are people who kind of get upset when you start talking about and doing stuff around Christmas, and we haven't even celebrated Thanksgiving yet, you know. And so I just would like to explain to our audience, thank you for being with us, by the way, is the reason why we're talking about the season, the color of the season and Christmas is because by the time we write the next article for the magazine, it will be published in the December issue, December 10th. And so we always include our show in our article. And so, and Minnie is going to be writing the next article, and she's hosting the show. And so that's why we're talking about the colors of the season tonight.
Right.
Yeah. We're not trying to jump ahead and get, and just not even pay attention to Thanksgiving. That's not the point.
No, I was thinking about that too, because I saw some posts on Facebook about, people getting upset about that and thinking, our show is red and green here.
Yeah.
But the other thing for me about this is for people to be thinking about the colors and what meaning they have before we get there,
Mm-hmm.
To really think about, or maybe you might want to change up your colors this year, or maybe you want to embrace some other traditions, which we're going to talk about.
Or your traditions, absolutely. Yeah.
So Sharon, what about the color red and green? And then we'll move on to...
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. The colors...
Red and green.
Red and green? Yeah. I think that the green is definitely from nature. And growing up in the Northeast, we had so many pine trees that it was, an overabundance of that color. But holly is where I think of the red coming from.
Oh, yeah.
The holly. Because when we would make wreaths in Girl Scouts or in high school, we would incorporate the holly and the holly berries, which is very traditional for Christmas. Yes.
I'm sorry, Sharon. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Donna, I'm going to take you down into the lobby because I have a picture of the holly berries. Okay. All right. Hang on.
We only have 3 spots.
I know.
We're going to rotate things around.
Right.
So.
And then let's see. I just have to find it. Oh, here's one. That's the holly berry.
Yeah.
So you can really see that vivid red and that waxy kind of green for the holly, right?
Yeah, really pretty.
And let's see, wait. And here is the mistletoe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, that dark green, but with the white contrast.
Yeah, and I think I have one more. Pretty. I have one more that shows the evergreen, and then we'll bring Donna back up. Mm-hmm. And so, in this particular picture, I know the lighting is kind of wonky in the picture, I think, but you can see the different shades of green. Hi, Connie. She's in the audience, and Steve and Rochelle. But anyway, there's the green, and I just wanted to show those pictures because as you're talking about them, Sharon, especially the holly. Where'd the holly go? There's the holly. It's so pretty.
It is.
It
is. And look at the clarity of those colors.
Yeah.
Okay. Very crisp, very clear. There's just no mistaking them. So it's a wonderful theme, I feel, for the holiday season. It's bright, it's cheerful when we otherwise have dreary days, and the white. So
right.
Yeah.
What I think of as being the essence of it. And when I think of those pine trees, I also think of the pine trees as because I think they're spiritual. I think they carry a lot of good spirit energy for the soul. The smell, the pine needles, the way the air flows through it. Those are all big pieces that to me contribute to those colors and sense of the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the evergreen, is evergreen. It doesn't lose its leaves. It's here green all the time.
Yep.
So for me, the green is about that renewal of life. Life just continues on.
Mm-hmm.
Even though pine trees do drop their needles, but there's always green needles on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the red, it was interesting after studying feng shui and looking at the colors of the holidays from a feng shui point of view, seeing, the green as wood energy, as life force, and especially that uprising of the way the pine tree grows in that upright position, everything shooting upward. Very uplifting that the pine is, along with the scent. But then the red is the activation color.
Yep.
So activating an everlasting, uplifting energy. And that's, for me, what the holidays can bring into my physical body is an uplifting feeling of being re-energized. So for that, but what about for like solstice, or Sharon celebrates Hanukkah? I'd really like to hear about those colors, Sharon. I know you do both. You celebrate solstice and Hanukkah. So what colors do you incorporate with those holidays?
Well, for Hanukkah, it's clearly blue, white, and silver for the sparkle. And so the traditions of that are that blue came from, we think, basically the Jewish the flag of Israel. And those colors, they selected those because the white represents the radiance of the priesthood or brotherhood. It's also a sign of purity, peace, and light. The blue is referred to as the splendors of the firmament, our foundation, the ground. But it's also part of the sky. It represents faith, wisdom, and truth, all of which are components of the Jewish faith that they adhere to and feel very strongly about. The Israeli flag, in terms, they talk about the blue, the stripes of the blue on the white in the Israeli flag. And that came about because through the years, Jewish people have worn a prayer shawl called the talit. And in the Bible, it was commanded that the Jewish people dip some of their like rough, not frayed edges, on the edges of it. And it was not suggested, but they were told to dye a thread of those tassels in blue ink from a sea snail, so that they might look upon that ink and remember all the commandments of the Lord and live by them, do them. So, that blue really has a much deeper meaning than just being part of the Israeli flag or, being symbolic for the Jewish faith, which, everybody always looks at that Israeli flag and they think, oh, blue and white, blue and white. But even they wanted to bring the sparkle of the stars and the moon, and so that's where the silver started to come in as well. So it's kind of simple, but it's also got that crisp, clean look to it. It just, to me, I think of the sky, I think of the air, the moon, the stars, and there's the cookies that we have a tendency to make when it gets to be Hanukkah, and that's a menorah in the background that's silver, where you have your 8 candles that are lit that give you the white glow every night, which you light one for each night. And so on the cookies, you have the Star of David, the menorah, and the dreidel as well, which is a game that we play at Hanukkah. It's a lot of fun. The kids like it. Sort of like gambling. And that's not my house, but that is a photo that we had of a different house that was very well decorated for the holidays. So some people, really like to deck it all out. I have to say, I like the blue and white lights around the house.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different, but I like it. It's just something that I've grown to love. I went through my conversion and raised our children in that faith, and yeah, it was really very nice.
Sharon, I'm sorry. Both you and Minnie were kind of talking over each other just for a second there. Yeah. No, that's okay. She asked you a question. Go ahead, Minnie.
Sharon, I noticed on the picture that the president...
I lost Minnie again.
I did too.
I have no audio.
Hi, can you hear me, Sharon?
I can hear you, Donna.
Wait, sorry about that. That was,
there we go.
That was my fault. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Minnie. Say that again, please.
Sharon, I was wondering if there was a certain place you put presents, like a substitute, like for a Christmas tree, like under the mantle, like in this picture, or under an altar table, or.
Most families that I know of, including ours, usually assemble them near the menorah. So the menorah becomes the focal point for the holiday.
Mm.
And then depending on where you celebrate and where you keep your menorah, some people like to put it in their front window, some people like to put it on their dining room table. But which is what we would do. And then we'd go ahead and have gifts out each night, which sounds like a lot, but we would always do things like books and socks.
Oh, it's a sock night, man.
And then on the last night, we might get, something a little bit bigger. But it was always considered in our family and in my greater family, the tradition was to get things that were very useful and needed by the individuals. Mm-hmm. So that they had that connection to it not being so commercialized, but a time when we were acknowledging each other along with our faith and showing a lot of gratitude for that faith and the essence of the oil, the miracle of the oil lasting for 8 days when they ran out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I just really like that blue color, and Sharon, could you repeat about the where that blue comes from, where they were dyeing the tassels?
Right. So it's in the Bible. I was not able to find out. I didn't have time to respond to find out exactly what the passage was. But the Jewish people, when they went out of Israel, out of Egypt, they were commanded to go ahead and dye at least a thread of their tassels on their top leaves, the prayer shawl, with blue ink from a sea snail, so that they may look upon it every day and when they're praying and remember all the commandments of the Lord and to live by them and do them.
Hmm.
So when you add that into it, you can see how it becomes a strong religious foundation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's great. That's new information I never knew, Sharon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like the color is woven right into the faith and this particular holiday that we're talking about, Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Hey,
color. Yay, color. It's so important.
So what about solstice, Sharon? I know you celebrate that as well. Do you have colors for that?
For solstice, I go back to colors of nature, which for me include the green, the blue. I use lights, so there's my white. I have to say, I don't normally include red. I really don't. It's basically, it's blue and green.
Yep. Okay, Donna, what about you? And
for solstice?
Or other holidays, yeah.
Other holidays. So mainly solstice is what I've been celebrating the last several years. And I kind of stick to the red and green, but more of a natural palette, like Sharon's saying, having more natural elements around the house, pine cones, altar, candles, fresh things of the earth. Holly. I seem to live near a holly tree, the last 2 places I've lived, which is lovely. I didn't have that growing up. So right outside our home here, we have a big fresh holly tree. And then the neighbors at my last place had a beautiful big holly tree. So, that's the last 20 years or so, that's become part of my tradition, which I like because that connects me to the old world more, to Ireland and England and the Scottish ancestors, So that's mainly what I celebrate. I would throw in a little bit about Bodhi Day here if anybody's interested. Are you guys interested in that?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I got excited when we got our topic here from Minnie, and I thought, well, we can't just talk about Christmas and solstice. We got to be more, eclectic than that. And I wanted to just see, because we've heard a lot of talk in the American press these days about, the debate back and forth about should it be Merry Christmas or should it be Happy Holidays, and why people say Happy Holidays is because there are many, many faiths that celebrate, major traditions in the month of December. And so I wanted to see, well, what exactly are, what faiths are they? And there are a whole bunch. And the one that jumped out at me is that I didn't know there was a Buddhist holiday the beginning of December, December 8th, is called Bodhi Day. And Bodhi Day is when they celebrate Buddha's awakening, when Buddha awakened under the Bodhi tree and became enlightened. And it's a major part of the Buddhist faith. I didn't know this. Mm-hmm. So, and what I found for the colors of Bodhi Day is that they use a lot of colors, and the colors symbolize enlightenment, which I thought that was really great. You know, the whole concept of when you become enlightened, right, that things become full of color and beautiful and sparkly. And they also light candles, and they'll keep the candles burning for 30 days. And modern day people, the way modern day people celebrate, they use colored lights, just like, you know, Christians and Jews, we use colored lights in our homes. Mm-hmm. And then they have the tree, they have something that symbolizes the Bodhi tree in their home, which I think is usually a jade tree. I don't know if I made a note of that. I'm quite sure that's what it is. But they only, and they hang ornaments on it, but usually only 3, to symbolize the 3 jewels of Buddhism, which is so beautiful. And the 3 jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So it's a lovely holiday. Just wanted to throw that in there. I might start celebrating that too, because I'm basically I'm a Christian Buddhist pagan. Yeah. I mean, I've practiced yoga for a long time, so I think I want to start.
Do the show early so we can learn about these new holidays.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. You know,
thanks, Donna. That's cool.
That is very cool. You know, and I had forgotten about the holly thing about being protection, and that in the ancient days, the Druids were the ones that would go out to harvest the holly for the celebration, because they were the only ones that knew the ceremony to really do it before they could bring the holly in. And that when they put it by the door, it was actually meant for not just protection, but also for the person who is holding the ceremony or the party, you know, that they would have good luck consistently throughout the new year. And and so, you know, I had completely forgotten about that piece about the Druids going out to do the harvest. And they would also go out to get the mistletoe too, because the mistletoe grew symbiotic with the oak, right? And so they would also go out to get the mistletoe as well. But I had completely forgotten about that piece.
So, Neshi, do you know what the mistletoe was like before we started hanging it and kissing under it? Like,
well,
you know?
Because of the white color of the berry, it was supposed to symbolize the divine. And since it grows on the oak trees, and how the oak trees were sacred to the Druids, and how the mistletoe actually grows in the oak trees, it grows up in the canopy in clusters. And so they literally would have to climb up the tree to harvest them. It's not like they would, you know, and today that, you know, they wouldn't go out there with buckets, you know, to those electronic buckets to go up there to harvest them. They had to shimmy up the tree to get them. And so because they were so high up, and between that and the color, it was a sign of divinity, and it was, you know, closer to the creator, to the source. Yeah. Mistletoe. Yeah.
I remember hearing something about, like, in the South, they shoot it out of the trees, like with their gun. It sounds like it, right? Like, yeah.
Well, you know, and just the color white, you know, just kind of bringing it into more of the modern day, and how we think of the color white of being, you know, that color that encompasses all colors, right? That it's all one, that form of unity within the color. And actually, it's when they're talking about the chakra system, they're talking about the chakra that is just above your crown chakra, which is the soul chakra, or the return chakra. And that return, the color of that particular chakra is white. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, when you start thinking about what the ancients did, and how they used the color, and how we express it today in modern day, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, we are probably closer to our roots than what we really think. You know?
Yep. Yeah, and color is a thread that connects us, you know, to that.
Yep.
Or color memory.
Yeah.
Well, I did some research on Estonia Christmas because when I met my husband, there was this odd Santa on their tree, and you have a picture of it.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. Yeah, I'll bring it up.
Of a blue and white Santa Claus, and I was like, "What? You know, Santa in Estonia is blue and white."
Oops. Sorry.
And my husband said, "Yes, that's an ornament that his grandmother had brought from Estonia." And this isn't an exact picture of the ornament. It's tucked away, and I didn't want to go digging through.
There he is.
Yet. So there he is. It's very similar to him.
Oops, you give him a solo there.
And you know, we talked about the regalia last month. The Estonian colors are black and blue and white. So I thought, you know, maybe there was something there. But as I researched it, it's more that their Santa goes back to the Yule.
Yep.
And to, they call him, I hope my father-in-law doesn't hear this, he'll kill me with my Estonia, but it's Joulu Vana. And I know Vana means old because we call my dad Vana Isa, which means old father, grandfather. So Vana means old, and Joulu means Yule. So it's saying Yule olds or old Yule. And so that's his name in Estonia is Old Yule, going back to, you know, more of the Yule celebrations. And what I found out with their traditions, their ideas with Santa is that he doesn't have a sleigh. He could come in a car or walk to your house, but he would come to the front door and knock, and he would have all your presents, but you had to do a dance or sing a song for him before he give you your gift.
I love that Santa.
I know.
He's dance and he's practical. He comes by whatever means.
Really quite fun. Yeah, and I found a picture of Santa in a car with his stuff. You know, just driving around. So,
well, I was wondering when I saw this blue Santa, is that there in Germany, way back when, before Santa wore red, when he was known as Kris Kringle, the original Santa was actually in blue and kind of an icy white.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, even St. Nicholas, I've seen pictures of, you know, him in blue and white. So I think we commercialized him and put him in red. I really do. Because it popped more, you know?
Yeah.
Or was it a separation of this Yule, this type solstice, you know, father figure or almost a magician type figure?
Yeah.
And then we had to, you know, change him to something, you know, a little more, I don't know, modern.
Yeah, could
but
be.
The picture, you have a picture of downtown Tallinn too, Neshi.
Yeah, I just have to get there.
Estonia. And if you look at the colors that they use when they decorate, it's really more of that blue and white, almost like the Hanukkah tradition, Sharon, which I thought was interesting. But it's very, you know, very much a lot of white lights and the blue and the green. Very, very peaceful, serene coloring that, you know, happens. This is in the downtown marketplace. This is a very popular place at Christmas. All those little buildings hold are different stores that you can buy sausages and gifts and all kinds of handmade things. And they have a big tree, but, you know, the tree doesn't have all those gaudy, bright colors on it. It's very, very winter themed.
And the lights don't go blinky, blinky, blinky.
No, they don't. But I just love it. So I thought that was interesting to see what colors they use. And for me, these are the colors of solstice for me as well. They're just that very wintry blue, steel blue, gray. I'm thinking of when I'm in the stone circle on solstice morning with my girlfriends, waiting for the sun to come up, and that's the colors that are around us are the gray colors of the stone, the white on the ground, and then the golden white light of the sun coming up.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's what colors I'm associating with solstice, or again, what's out in nature.
Mm-hmm. Did you see what Carla Joe is saying in the chat about Santa's being dressed in red?
Santa was dressed in red by the Coca-Cola advertisers. I wouldn't put that past them.
Nope,
yep.
I wouldn't either.
Because it's the color of their can logo, right?
That's right.
So it works for them.
I was going to say Macy's, but there you go.
Santa again.
Well, actually, you're not that far off, Donna, with the Macy's thing, because after our monthly SiStars call, and we were talking about the commercialism and that kind of thing, I went out to take a look at when the department stores started offering the Christmas tree and ornaments and stuff. And Macy's department store did the very first lighted tree and then started selling the things that were on the tree, to people in 1948.
Mm-hmm. After the war, yeah.
And so you were right, Sharon. It was right, like right after World War II. And so, yeah.
Can we bring Sharon back up?
We can.
Yeah.
Hang on, Sharon. I'm bringing you back up.
Yeah, because you can't talk at all.
There we go. There's Sharon.
I know she's there, but I want to see her. There she is.
He's back.
So it's just interesting to see how there was a color shift,
Yeah.
When we were very tiny or not quite here yet, during our parents' lifetime, there was a color shift for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to? Should I repeat the story about what I told you guys about my mom and Christmas Eve?
Yes.
You see, when I was asking her about Christmas, this is when she first moved in with us, and asking her what was Christmas like for her as a child, and she said this was the early Christmases were way before the commercialization of it, and they lived outside of Wittenberg, which is a small little town. It's very much a German settlement. And so the Christmases that they were exposed to and started celebrating themselves did have a Christmas tree, but they didn't put it up until Christmas Eve. And my grandmother would decorate the tree with popcorn. They'd string the popcorn, and the cranberries, and they didn't have electric lights for the tree. They had these little that held the candles. There were little things that you put the candles in, and so she would light the tree after supper. And they had a piano, and one of my aunts played the piano, and they would sing, and then they would open their presents right on Christmas Eve. And on Christmas Day was all about family because my great grandparents were there. They'd spend like 2 weeks there. And it was about leftovers, basically, and taking down the tree. So it was really only up for like one night and half a day.
Wow.
But it was a real tree. And again, like Donna, my grandfather was very aware of the heat source was fireplaces or, one of those old metal kind of stoves that they would use. And so it was very dry in there. And so they only had the tree up for like a day and a half. But, most of the coloring was white, or red. And of course, in the color, the tree was green. But, I was thinking about that is, and how much it changed in our lifetime and what we end up with today and the colors that we have today. And it's really not even, those are the traditional colors, but it could be almost any color. Have you ever seen a lavender and purple tree decorated? It's gorgeous because they use silver with it or white, of course, but it's gorgeous.
So,
Non-traditional.
and you can get an ornament for anything that you want to get an ornament for in the United States.
It's true.
I had Annie Ninjas from England visiting here in August, September. She was here in September, yeah. And she wanted to go to a Christmas store, so I took her to one of our craft stores that had half off all their Christmas ornaments already, and she couldn't believe, for one thing, they had their Christmas ornaments out, and, that there were so many. And she, spent an hour looking at the ornaments and couldn't believe that she could buy a pink donut with sprinkles that was an ornament. So she bought that for her friend who knew she would get a big laugh out of these Americans and their silly ornaments, But she was just so kind of overwhelmed by, and again, how much Christmas you could find in October,
Yeah.
And it wasn't a Christmas store,
Yeah.
But it was fun to see it through her eyes. She was just like, oh my goodness,
Yeah, I was just thinking about the solstices parties that I've been to over the years, and there's a few that really did have, really coordinated colored decorations up, and the seasonal colors and that kind of thing. But I have to say, most of them were not. The big draw really was the bonfire outside. And
right.
And I live in Wisconsin, so you either have snowmobile suits in, the colors of the snowmobile suits for outdoors, or you have hunter orange.
Yeah.
And so that's what's standing around the fire, because people are dressed to be warm. They're not.
They're warm outfits.
Yeah. They're not dressed in blue and that kind of stuff. But and really, it is about the fire and being out there the night before. It'd be solstice eve and really connecting to nature and the return of the light, and talking about, being thankful for what you received in the past year, what you're willing to say goodbye to. Don't need you anymore. Thank you very much, but you can go now, kind of stuff. Can't wait for that December this year. And talking about what you'd like to create in the new year, and really about it being social and seeing people you might not have seen for most of the year, and eventually, because you can't stand the cold anymore, you're going to go inside and warm up, and having some hot chocolate or tea or something to get warmed up, apple cider, that kind of stuff, right. And the cookies, of course, and chocolate. Can't forget the chocolate. But I don't know. I think the color is really important because it brings back memories, and but on the other hand, it's not as important as the intention for the holiday, right?
Right. Of what you're gathering for. Or what you're honoring, or what ritual you're doing, like you're talking about with solstice, releasing and calling in. Part of one of the solstice rituals that I adopted, I did it a couple of years with the kids when we have our solstice fire. You keep one of the logs from the fire that hasn't burned.
Yeah.
You get one that's like halfway burned.
Yeah.
And you store it for the year, and you start the new fire with that log.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to put it in the garage, and we'd like, the solstice log, don't touch it, That's kind of hard, but it symbolizes, I'm sure, that they kept the fire going all year round from that fire,
Yeah. The Yule log, that's the tradition of the Yule log, yeah. Which, really did come over from Europe. All of these holidays really have come over from Europe, and they're fun. But I have to say that as we're doing research for the show and getting things prepared, I had to go back and think of, okay, so I wonder what my native ancestors would have done. What would they have done?
Yeah.
And
what would they have done?
I honestly don't know, because all of that history, all of that knowledge is basically gone. I would think that I don't know if they would have been outside around a fire. They might have, but it's possible. This is, I'm talking thousands of years ago, more, let's say at least more than 500 years ago.
Well, if it was cold, they would be outside around a fire.
Well, not necessarily. They would probably be indoors in their wigwams or their teepees, or, because the fire is right there.
Right.
It's right, and it was in the center of the dwelling of the home.
Yeah, probably stayed warmer in there. Practicality. But they would be around a fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there would be that color, the fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something for me to maybe meditate on.
It'd probably be like
journey on it.
And dancing going on. I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe those 49s, can those kind of drumming hand drums, most certainly. Yeah. I don't know.
Right.
Something I
could
research.
They take out a certain day to celebrate, or, was that just what happened?
Well, they didn't exactly have the Julian calendar or the Gregorian calendar. And so, they followed nature. They followed nature. They followed the stars. And so whatever configuration the stars would have been in, or the moon where it was located, and whether it was waxing or waning, that's what they would have gone by. Yeah.
That would signal their celebration time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obviously because we notice it. We notice the change in the daylight, and how
big time right now.
Yeah, and how earlier it gets dark, right?
5 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. So that's, I'm sure that they were probably watching the lengthening and the shortening of the day and the night. Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna journey on that. I'm gonna go check it out and see what I can find out.
So just wrapping things up here before we talk about what we're up to. Does everyone have an idea of maybe something from this show that sparked an idea for your celebrating this year? How about you, Sharon? You got any ideas or remembering of something from the past that you might bring forward?
I'm totally on the business pieces. I'm going to incorporate that. I think that's going to be something. I'm really thrilled about that. That's going to be something to add into our celebration.
Yeah. Did you guys catch that? Because my sound was... Yeah, your sound was kind of wobbly. If you could repeat that, maybe we'll catch it this time.
Okay. I'm totally on to Donna's suggestion, or what she's brought up about the Bodhi tree.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something.
Bodhi tree, yeah.
Pretty cool. And this year Hanukkah starts on the 12th, so with the Bodhi tree celebration on the 8th, it just really spreads out the month and gives us celebrations for the whole month.
All the way to the solstice.
Right. I like that.
Thanks, Chris.
What about you, Donna? You've got some ideas?
Well, one thing I just thought of while we were talking earlier, nutrition I started, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little longer. I've always decorated for Christmas since I've been on my own, with Jonathan. But for the longest time, I never had a crush. And my mom always had a crush. My mom was like church lady. She liked all things traditional about the holiday. She loved Christmas. And so we all grew up loving Christmas. My older sister, Eileen, adores Christmas. She decorates the day after Thanksgiving, her entire house from top to bottom. So I come from this tradition of women that they love the decorative aspect of it. But somehow for me, the crush always represented like what was not good about my faith to me growing up, or where my disconnect with the faith, how I was raised. I just didn't get it. It was too Jesus. It was too church. I didn't want anything to do with it. And then, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago or something clicked from, I still am a practicing Christian. I belong to a wonderful congregation here. And I just sort of got it. I got like the beauty of the crush and the sacredness of the mother and the child and all that. And I thought, I do want to have a crush. So I kind of searched high and low because I didn't want just any cheesy crush. I wanted like a funky crush. That's how I put it. Like I wanted a funky crush. And so I found this beautiful crush made in Africa from like banana leaves, I think it is. And very small, petite, like total plant-based, really lovely. And so I had that for a few years. And then a couple years ago, I got it in my head that like the funky crush could get even funkier because of like what you were talking about, Minnie, with your friend and going to the Christmas stores. I think I probably was like in Pier 1, 1 year, and just saw all the great ornaments they have of like all the exotic animals from around the world. So now every year my funky crush gets like a new animal, and it's not just like the biblical animals. There's like elephants and like all these like colorful animals in my crush, and so
it's a jungle crush, yeah.
The funky jungle crush. So I'll take a picture this year and I'll put it up on Spirit of Colors Facebook page.
Do that. I'd love to.
So that's like the old and the new for me. It's sort of my way to honor my mom and how she raised me, but to completely make it my own, because I am funky, global, eclectic, spiritual me. And so that's how my crush now is. So
I love that, Donna. I love that. Oh, hey Nash, what are you gonna do this year?
We didn't have a solstice fire last year. And so I am looking forward to that this year, is to have the solstice fire. And, I don't know if I'm going to incorporate anything new. It's just, just being really intentional of what we are going to be doing. And
do you write down, like, what you're releasing and burn it, or, like, say it? What do you do? Yeah,
I think what we're going to do is we're going to actually write it down this year. In the past, we've always talked about it. We talk about those things just around the fire, but I think it's going to, the last year and a half has been pretty tough. So I think that it would be beneficial to write it down and put it in the fire. What we used to do? We used to take our past years of vision boards. And talk about them and what actually was created from them, what came into the physical world, and how we were grateful for it and what it turned out to be, and and the story behind it. And then we would burn the board, but we don't have any. so yeah, right. So I think it'd be really nice if we sat down and was mindful about what we're going to write out and do it that way this year. I think it'd be nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'll be wearing hunter orange out there.
Okay.
Just so you know.
And I think I've been slowly doing this. I'm changing all the ornaments to my tree to those old-fashioned glass ones, just because I've got that memory so strong in my head of what I love, and I'm sure there's some Victorian past life memory too of those ornaments. But I've been slowly collecting and buying on eBay vintage ones, and so just having all that glass, because it shines so, the reflections of the lights, I put white lights on the tree and whitish gold lights, and the reflection of the light off those colors is just astounding. So magical for me. So it will be a magical glass ornament fairy tree. And I don't know. I might not even put any of the kids. I used to put all their little school ornaments on there and stuff. We'll see. But it just might be that kind of tree just for me this year. We'll see.
And of course, you'll take pictures.
And takes it down. It's my tree.
And you're going to take pictures, right?
I will take pictures, definitely.
Okay. Good.
Okay, well, we've got a few minutes left, so Neshi, why don't you tell us what you're up to these days?
Oh my goodness. Working on Star Nation's radio network stuff, because we brought all 19 shows over to Facebook Live, Be Live TV, yay! And now that we're all over here and all those shows have at least gone through once through the live streaming, now I'm sitting down to map out the promotional stuff. And so that there's some rhyme and a little reason to it.
And so, all the shows are on YouTube too,
yes,
right?
yeah, yep. Our archive is the YouTube. And what I can do is put that into the comments. So if anybody is looking for past shows of any of the shows on Star Nations, you can go to YouTube and see them there all in one place. And they're also housed here as well on our individual fan pages and also at the main fan page. Okay. So, yeah.
On YouTube, do you look up Star Nations?
Star Nations Radio? Star Nations Organization.
Organization. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll put the link in the comments after the show. So
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Donna?
I am slipping into winter mode here. Although January, I should be having another local Collage Quest one-day workshop coming up. So stay tuned for that. I'll get the date out as soon as I have it. But I'm going into writing mode. I'm excited. Slipping back in. I'm starting to work on my next book and getting a lot of clear guidance about which one that's going to be. There's a couple in the pipeline, and now I know which one I'm focusing on. So I'm looking couple different books. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the winter downtime where I can just nestle in and focus and get a lot of writing done.
And what about you, Sharon?
Well, the feathering quill is busy feathering, still editing. Get all the articles that
feathering quill is busy feathering. And are you taking new work to edit for other people too?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, I've got a couple books that I'm working on as well as writing my own book. So, yep, if you need any editing, come my way.
All right. Send people to Sharon. And I got, Missing Nana is a great book for a Christmas present. So is Spirit Gardens for those people that plan their gardens in the winter. Both of those are available on my website with free shipping right now. So minniekansman.com. You can get those. Kind of quieted down with the Shinrin Roku for the winter. My nature and forest therapy walks. But I do have one book for the east side of the state coming in May at a nature preserve there, so it'll be really, really fun to travel to a new spot in Michigan and have a new audience. So, Well, everyone, thank you. This is a wonderful, fun discussion of the holidays and different ideas of how to celebrate these holidays that are coming up and all the beautiful colors that are associated with them. Thank you, everyone, for all your input and enlightenment tonight. And thank you, Spirit of Color, SiStars, and Sharon for being our special guest tonight. We appreciate
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks for everyone that listens tonight and watches later on YouTube. And happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays to all.
We'll see you next month. No, we won't. We have a replay next month.
Just replay.
Next month, yeah.
All right. Good night, everyone.